standing for prayer with me?
In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore. In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore.
Open our service with a word of prayer, and we took requests early this morning, which goes on our prayer sheet, but maybe there's a request that we didn't catch early this morning. Give it to us at this time. Every heart and mind clear. Brother Randy, listen, we love you, man. Lead us in a word of prayer. Would you do that?
Heavenly Father, we praise you for this time we've had to come together. We thank you for watching over us and caring for us. And Father, for just a privilege and honor we have here today to get in your house and worship openly and freely. But Father, most of all, we thank you for Jesus who gave his life so we could have eternal life. And Father, for the many that's on the prayer list, we pray for that. Lord, pray for healing. We pray for comfort and everything in accordance to your will. And Father, now we thank you for everyone that made their way this way, made the effort to come. We thank you for them. Bless the remainder of this service. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
We're talking about in the sweet by and by, and that kind of goes with our choir special today. This is a song we all love. We love what we're singing about. Sweet you away.
I'm kind of hopeless for a country to which I've never been before. No sad goodbye will
Let me just take a minute and welcome each one to our morning worship hour. It's good to see each one of you here today, and tell you what, it's a joy to have Brother Chris, right? Well, y'all's family. We'll just put it that way. All of you, it's good to have y'all here this morning. And if we had pack a pew, y'all would nearly have a whole pew packed here. You'd get the contest this morning, but it's good to have you, and we look forward to hearing Chris in just a few minutes. Good to have Jimmy's son here this morning sharing with us, and all the other just regular folks here. It's good to see each one of you. I've got here what you call a preacher's nightmare. I got 7 sheets here of stuff, announcements to make, but I'm going to parabole them. How does that sound? Number one, let me mention the Harvest Time Singers will be singing across the road over here at 1:30 this afternoon at Brother Bob and church over here, so be sure to remember that. And then also remember tonight, everyone that's in the Christmas play program, be sure to be here upstairs at 5 o'clock. And as we did the last few Wednesday nights, I take everybody downstairs. We've been having a good crowd down here, just about a room full, you know. And I used to have a little Bible study downstairs with those that's not in place. So remember that. All those in the play practice, be sure to remember this. Also, be sure to remember Wednesday night will be the same principle. Those in the Christmas play will be upstairs, and I'll have everyone else downstairs. So we're a little closer to the food that way, you know. We enjoy it. We enjoy being together. It's good to love God and love God's people, you know. Let me also be sure to mention this morning, be sure these little slips, if you'll fill them out, how many of you be bringing and your name. You don't have to put no money with this. What we do, everybody, we go to have our Christmas program, not Christmas, adult party, and then after it's all over, we put our money. Church just goes ahead and pays the bill, and then the Sunday after that, Saturday night, we take and put our money in for that. So be sure to keep that in mind. If you would, be sure to fill that out as soon as possible and just drop it in the offering plate. So I can file that and I can put mine in there. There you go. Let's see now. Also, here's our schedule. First Free Will Baptist Church Christmas party. Now that's not far off. That's Saturday night, December the 7th at 5 o'clock in the church basement. And there's the menu there. Baked chicken, ham, hash brown casserole, corned beef, the whole 9 yards is right there. So be sure to keep that in mind. And I hope everybody will come. Now, if you're a man, always bring a man's gift. If you're a lady, you bring a lady's gift. Most of us, we've played that before. We have a good time at our Christmas party. So be sure to keep that in mind if you would. Also, I believe a week following that, we're going to have a Christmas party for our young people. That'll be on Wednesday, December 18th at 6:30. Fun, games, devotion. And I like the way Judy put it, food. Baptists, where 2 or more gathered, we'll eat, you know. I think we got all of that. But also be sure to remember all of this. And also as we begin to, remember something else. The 28th is Thanksgiving. We'll have prayer meeting on Tuesday rather than Wednesday because a lot of people have folks coming in for the holidays and getting ready and all of that. So we always do that every year. On Tuesday will be prayer meeting on the 26th. Be sure to keep that in mind. I think those are about all. Anything else? Did I cover everything? Did I touch all the bases? Good enough. We're going to touch another base. We're going to receive our morning tithes and offerings. So for ushers to come at this time. By the way, when we pray this morning, remember Philip. Philip's got the flu. He's real sick. So be sure to remember him if you would. And Brother Jim, would you stand in for Philip this morning, take the morning tithes and offerings? We'd invite you to give back to the Lord a little portion of that which he's so abundantly blessed us all. I don't believe I'd be out of order to say God's been good to us. Brother Jim, lead us in prayer.
Dear Lord, we want to thank you for another day, Lord. Lord, we want to thank you for all your blessings, Lord, and all that you do for us and all that you give us. Lord, it's just good to be here house this morning, Lord. It's good to have family in the house this morning, Lord. Lord, we want to lift these tithes and offerings out to you this morning, Lord, for your blessing, Lord. We do it all for you, Jesus. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
she shares with us what the Lord's given her to see.
There is coming a day when no heartache shall come, no more clouds in the sky, no more tears to dim the eye. All is peace forevermore on that happy golden shore. What a day, glorious day that will be. What a day that will be when my Jesus I shall see, and I look upon his face, the one who saved me by his grace, when he takes me by the hand and leads me through the promised land. What a day, glorious day that will be. There'll be no sorrow there, no more burdens to bear, no more sickness, no pain, no more parting over there, and forever I will be with the one who died for me. What a day, glorious day that will be. What a day that will be when my Jesus I shall see, and I look upon his face, the one who saved me by his grace, when he takes me by the hand and leads me through the promised land. What a day, glorious day that will be.
Amen. This time we're privileged to have with us in our service this morning Brother Chris Gann. And I was just thinking a little bit ago, you know, we support missionaries in Africa. I think of Aaron and Amen. You know, the Hamptons up in, of all places, Montezuma, Montana, nearly out of the country, you know. And I was thinking, you know, it's wonderful that we have someone like Chris that's working in a country of the Dominican Republic. You know, that's not so far from our Key West, Florida, our shores. So he's working and doing the work of the Lord down there. And I'm so glad that you could be with us today and share with us. We remember your family from many, many years ago. You know, I always think about his grandfather, Brother Roy. I was telling him, Brother Roy gave me the first opportunity to preach a revival meeting when I came to Tennessee many, many years ago. And he and I just formed a friendship, and I got to preach several times for him. He preached several revivals for me. And Brother Roy, you know, pastored here. I reckon he was here about 10 years, probably quite a little while, done a good work here, you know. And I just say this morning, here's the way I'm going to introduce him. He's a chip off the old block. Would that be all right? Chris, you come share with us, brother, what God's laid on your heart to share with us. And Snooks, he ain't doing no weed eating now, I'm telling you. Snooks said he's the best weed eater he ever had. I helped you a little bit.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Well, good morning, everyone. It's a privilege to be back in McEwen. And on behalf of my family, my wife Jennifer, my children, Calder, Ainsley, and Malachi, thank you so much for giving us the time this morning to speak and share our hearts and what God has done in our lives. I'd like to start just by opening up in prayer for us here for the service. So if everyone just bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for being a good father to us. We thank you, Lord, for when we can't, that you can. We thank you for when we do not know the way that you have it planned for us. And Lord, I pray that you just open our hearts and minds this morning. And Lord, I pray that you just use me and speak through me in a way that would minister to the people gathered here today. So Lord, I just ask these things in your name. Amen. So it's a little awkward. I remember going to church here and sitting back and watching my grandfather preach and thinking, I never want to be on this side looking out at people. And here I am. So it's just a lesson that you never tell God never. I was raised for the most part in McEwen here. Very, very familiar. Went to school, McEwen Elementary, McEwen Junior High, McEwen High School, graduated. Familiar with the community, a lot of the families and people. And it was very good in a lot of ways. Also couldn't get away with much because everyone had eyes on me and knew if I was up to something. So, but it was home, and it's nice to be back home here. My grandfather was a pastor, so I've spent many days in this church. Many nights, sit on that back row right back there. Usually because I was up to no good, trying to hide some stuff. I do remember the all-night barbecues we used to have in the fall out here. That was a good memory. And like you said, I believe if there was any opportunity to eat, there was food. So I remember running downstairs after services to be the first in line to get food. So let me kind of tell you what happened with my life after leaving McEwen. I graduated college from UT Martin, and I went down to Texas. A girl took me down there. We ended up marrying. After our marriage, we ended up having 3 kids. My oldest is named Calder. He's going to be 13 in a couple of months. My middle child, her name is Ainsley. She'll be 11 in a couple of weeks. And my youngest just turned 6 a few days ago, and his name is Malachi. And I actually brought him along with me this morning. So Malachi's right here. So you wanna turn around and say hi? So kind of professionally, my degree was in business, but I ended up getting an education. I was a teacher for several years. And from teaching, it took me into coordinating academic programs. And then God led me to become a counselor. I never saw that in the cards, but I was a counselor for several years. And I ended up becoming an administrator and a coordinator at some large Texas public schools. We worked in schools that are around 2,500 to 3,000 students, and had a lot of roles in those schools that, again, were preparing the way for what we're doing right now. As I was kind of preparing this, I thought my biography is really quick. Like I just went over this in 3 or 4 minutes. But there's a lot of things that have happened in the day-to-day within that biography. A lot of things. And I was kind of drawn to the times or seasons in our life, the things we go through. One of my wife and I's favorite sayings is, the years go by fast, but the days go by slow. And that's something that we've experienced thus far in our life. So I wanted to take us to Ecclesiastes chapter 3. So I'm going to be reading from the King James Version of Ecclesiastes chapter 3. I'm going to start in verse 1 and go through verse 8. And in this it says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. The first of those many times began here in McEwen. There's a lot of people that I came across in my life here, whether it be teachers, friends, family, church family, it's spoken to my life and started doing some of the initial work that would lead to where I'm at right now. We've had a time of joy, my wife and I, with a new marriage and all that comes along with that. Bringing a partner into my life that can walk along with us as we serve. Children, bringing the children into our lives and the happiness that adds into that. Then a time of struggle. So I'll go back to the kids on that one. Because there can definitely be there's things that come out of the kids that I never knew would happen. Anyway, so that was something, and I had never picked up a child until I had my first kid, called her. So I had no idea what I was doing. So there was a lot of struggle there. Graduate school. I've concurrently worked and been in graduate school for the last 9 years of my life. Next month, I'm going to be defending a dissertation, and I'll finally be finished with grad school, Lord willing there. Other struggles, new jobs, and all the things that come along with it. Going from McEwen, Tennessee, to living in a metroplex of 7.5 million people, working in a school that has 3,000 students. Just struggle in getting used and acclimated to the things. A time of sadness. My wife and I were pregnant with twin girls, and we lost those daughters about 17, 18 weeks into the pregnancy. There was a time to learn and working with others, working with people from different backgrounds, economic backgrounds, social backgrounds, racial and ethnic backgrounds, understanding different points of view. My counseling background taught me how to have empathy for others and what they're going through and growing in faith. But everyday life becomes routine. You don't understand or see those seasons in the routine and living those out. And in a way, my wife and I were looking for escape. Say, this can't be right. Some of these things that we're going through, some of these seasons in our life, they can't be right. Things are frustrating. Things are difficult. But about 5 years ago, my wife and I had been discussing and praying on this. And we were led to the understanding that the things we were doing were right and what God had intended. And we knew that they would end up serving a greater purpose at some point in our life. So, even within the normalcy and the routine, we took those struggles, we took the happy things, and we prayed for God to give us information on what we needed from those circumstances, because they would be used later on. One thing that we prayed often, coming from Jeremiah 29:11, it was something that we reflected on weekly in our own time. Was, and it states, "For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end." And we took great comfort in knowing and understanding that the direction we were heading is exactly where God had intended us to be. So, in looking back on our life and some of the details on that, we knew that God was preparing the soil for our hearts for our eventual move out of the country. So let me talk to you about the end of a season and the beginning of a new one. Moving to the Dominican Republic. So about a year and a half ago, things became very, very clear. So let me tell you how those things became clear. I was in a position at a high school in Texas. I was working as an advanced academics coordinator at a school that was extremely, extremely academically, doing well academically. 10% of the students were going to Ivy League schools, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, extremely smart population of students. And I was working in advanced academics. I was the person that was dealing with those students. My job for the next year was going to be Dean of Academics. So I would be the second person in charge of all the academics in this school of 3,000 students. Things were looking good. I was working and finishing up a degree. Things were looking great. My principal called me to the office, and she said, "Chris, I've got some news for you." I said, "Yes, ma'am, what's that?" She said, "The job that you were intended to go into next year is not going to be funded." So I said, "Well, that's disappointing." because I had hoped that I would have that position. Say, okay, that's okay. I've got some other news. The position you're currently in is not going to be funded anymore either. So I said, okay, it's May. Hiring season is over for the most part in education. So I leave work. I call my wife and I say, well, Jennifer, she said, yeah. I said, I just lost my job. And we both start laughing at the same time. We go back to 5 years earlier to the promise we knew we received from God about works He had for us. And everything in our life, we pray for open lights, green doors. God, let these things be known to us. He's flashing a pretty big signal with that. Okay? So that the job loss is a pretty big one. So we kind of took it in stride. We went home. We talked about it. We prayed about it. And I reached out to a school in the Dominican Republic. No idea. Jennifer and I both had done separate searches on jobs, and we both came back to this school in the Dominican Republic. I called. I said I was interested. I sent my resume down. And that afternoon, I had the first job interview, 2 days after I'd lost my job. So, long story here, but I'll try to make it short. My wife and I fly down to the Dominican Republic June 1st, I believe. I do an in-person job interview. My wife needed a job as well. She did a job interview. We then were offered the job on June 4th of last year. We accepted the job on June 5th. We flew back to Texas. We sold everything we had. We sold our home, every possession we had. We sold our cars. And folks, all these things happened extremely smoothly. As soon as I landed in Texas, I went into my workplace and I said, guys, I've got a job. And two of the people that I worked with said, can we buy your car? I said, okay, sure. The house, we really wanted to close on it before we left the country because it was going to be a month. The first person that looked at our house said, we'll pay full cash offer for it. We want it. I said, well, it's going to kind of be a problem because we have to close quickly. And they said, we do too. Can 15 days work for you? I said, yeah, that'll work for us. That'll work just fine. Anyway, on July 18th, about 40 days after we had accepted the jobs in the Dominican Republic, we had sold everything we had, and we were in the Dominican Republic. And as the season goes, obviously it was hard. It's hard to leave relationships that we had. Obviously with our children, it was extremely difficult. They had friends. They had schools that they were involved in. All of my children played ice hockey in Dallas. There's not a lot of ice down in the Dominican Republic. So giving up things they loved, it was difficult for them. But God gave us an understanding and knowing that this move was right and in accordance with His will. And we trusted that. So that was a time of uprooting for us as we transition. Now, the Dominican Republic, you see the things on TV. Obviously, there's parts that are absolutely gorgeous. The beach areas, the resorts. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous island. The island itself is called Hispaniola, and Hispaniola is shared by two countries. One is Dominican Republic and one is Haiti. Okay? So they share the same island. So the city I live in is named Santiago, and Santiago is about an hour-and-a-half drive from the border of Haiti. So it's very, very close as well. There's a lot of things that are kind of going on in Haiti right now, and thus are impacting the Dominican Republic, and some of those things we see in our work. And I'll get into some of that, but some of the things, and I just want to kind of tell you about the transition, some of the things that have been challenging for us since living in the Dominican Republic. Obviously, the language. I speak English. A lot of the people that I worked with in Texas couldn't understand my English because it's a Tennessee accent. So, but yeah, I speak English, and everything is Spanish. Everything. So we had less than 30 days to get enough Spanish to try to operate, and it's difficult. We live in the central part of the country, so in the central part of the country, there's not any tourists. There are some English-speaking areas around the coastal areas. Everything is Spanish. You don't realize how difficult it is to do anything when you can't communicate with someone else. The first time I tried to get gas in the Dominican Republic, it took me nearly 15 minutes to negotiate that exchange. And the reason is you can't pump your own gasoline in the Dominican Republic. They do it for you because people steal gas if you don't. So anyway, trying to negotiate that, things are difficult. For the children, obviously, it was difficult. The school that we work in and that the kids attend is a English-speaking school, but the language that most of the kids speak during play is Spanish. So it was a difficult time for my child, Malachi here, coming home last year, saying, "Daddy, I can't understand what anyone's saying to me." It was very difficult, a time of change, fitting into a culture that is a lot different than ours and what we were used to. In a new position, I've only worked in high school my entire career, and right now I'm an elementary school principal. That's complete. Never what I thought. I'd been working with 3-year-olds up to 10-year-olds. But that's where God has me now. So there was a lot of struggles within that. One thing that my wife and I like, though, is that God provides a lot of humor in that exchange as well. Guys, I've seen some things I never thought I'd see my entire life. So I'll just tell you about a little of the culture. Motorcycles are prevalent in the Dominican Republic. Motorcycles are everywhere. They're cheap, they're fuel efficient. Most motorcycles have one seat. I don't think I've ever seen less than 4 people on a motorcycle, ever, the entire time I've been there. This culture squeezes more people on a motorcycle. It is absolutely amazing, and they use them for transportation. I was behind one day what I guessed was a rolling armoire. The man had someone put an armoire over the motorcycle. He had the door slung open and was driving the motorcycle with the armoire on him. It's every day there's something to laugh at. How do you move a refrigerator from one apartment to another? Well, you put it on a dolly, you turn around backwards, sit on the back of the motorcycle, and you tow that motorcycle across town. How do you get a stubborn cow from one farm to another? Motorcycle. That's how you do it. Put them on the back, strap them on. It's absolutely amazing, the things that you see and the humor. My kids were a little nervous to move to a new country because in just like any city, you have to be aware because there's crime and criminals. We have a home, and our home has walls that are extremely high, 8-foot walls with barbed wire around the entire compound here. And then there's electric wire above that. It's a safe place. There's bars on the windows. You'd really want to get in to the house. I mean, you're going to have to take some time to get in. And anyway, so one night we heard all this commotion outside, very, very early on, all this commotion. So my kids were scared. They run into the room. I'll go downstairs and look. And it wasn't someone trying to break in. It's the neighborhood wild horses running around. There's about 20 horses that just run wild in our neighborhood. So that's a common occurrence. So we try to feed them when we can, but that doesn't happen a lot. My wife moved to the Dominican Republic. The one thing on her list that she said she would not go somewhere to is if they had poisonous, venomous snakes. Luckily, the Dominican Republic doesn't have venomous snakes. What they didn't tell us is that they had tarantulas the size of dinner plates out there. So I wear glasses or contact lenses. I was asleep. This is the third night that we were in our house. I'm laying down, and Jennifer pokes me. She says, "Hey, Chris, look up." I look up. I can't see anything because I'm blind, but I don't have my glasses on. I just see it look like a dirty spot on the ceiling. So I put my glasses on. Tarantula right above my head. So obviously I do what any man does. I run out of the room squealing like a girl. And my wife kills the spider. So there's quite a bit. After the first month we were there, we began to get very tired. All my parent meetings are in Spanish. So as a principal, I'm spending most of my time talking to people that are mad. It's pretty much the job of a principal. I listen to everyone that's angry. And most of those meetings are in Spanish, and I have a translator that translates for me. So a parent will talk to me, translator will translate, I will respond back, she will translate back my message. So a parent meeting takes about an hour and a half to get through with all that. And my wife and I were just kind of burnt out and tired. So let's say, you know what, we can't take anymore. Let's just try to go out instead of going home and trying to cook a meal. Let's just try to go out. So there's a Wendy's there. So we go to Wendy's. It's like, how hard can this be? You point to the number that you want. That's it. There was a plastic mat on the counter. Just say this, right here, this one, right? You think that's all it would be, but it's not. So you point to it, and then these questions start. I go, I don't know what you're saying. And then they say it louder as if that will help. I still don't know. I have no clue what you're saying. Anyway, this order takes about 5 to 6 minutes to just order 5 burgers and fries and drinks for my family. So after a rough day anyway, and after going through that, my wife and I just have our heads hung down at the table. We go back up after a few minutes to get our order. There's a milkshake, which we didn't order a milkshake, and 1 pack of chicken nuggets there. So we go back to the table, and as a family of 5, we split a milkshake and a pack of chicken nuggets, and just walk out with our heads down, disappointed. So, and a lot of this stuff, though, there was a lot of challenge as well. But within that challenge, it also started giving us an understanding of others that have challenges that we may not be aware of. It's made us more aware and sympathetic and empathetic to people standing and what they have going on in their lives. So within this as well, there's been a lot of growth. It's a slower pace in the Dominican Republic. I'm home from work at 4:30. When I was living in Fort Worth, I had about an hour and a half commute each way. So I was driving 3 hours a day. Now my commute's 5 minutes. We're home by 4:30. We have time. The pace of life is much slower, and it's a gift that we have right now. There's not the constant consumerism that's here in the United States. People are content with what they have, and that's nice. And we're learning a lesson, and my kids are learning a lesson from that. You don't need a reason to celebrate things in the Dominican Republic, which is a good lesson. We eat cake every day in the Dominican Republic. I don't know why, but there's always cake, and I eat it. That explains why my shirts are shooting people in the face in meetings, because the buttons popping off on my shirts, because I'm eating so much cake. But people celebrate. And again, it's another reminder for my wife and I to stop and be thankful and grateful for the things that we have. So some of these things we're wondering, why did God bring us here? And I'll talk about some of the work things we do. But the biggest one thus far, obviously as a parent, your first goal, for my wife and I at least, is you want your children to come to know Christ. That's your number one most important goal. So listen to a pastor, and he kind of calls it, you're trying to hit your mark, trying to get your arrows in the bullseye, okay? We've lost 2 daughters that we know right now are in heaven. We've got my son and daughter, the older son and daughter have both accepted Christ. And last week, my son Malachi started asking questions because of what he was hearing in his Bible class at school. He started asking questions about Jesus, and he was led to know Christ last week. Amen. So, if I look at the difficulties we experience there, but also some of the things that come out of this, and I know we're in the right place right now. Let me talk to you a little bit about the Dominican Republic. It's a Catholic country, okay? So it was years ago. Christopher Columbus, actually the first place he found in the Americas was the Dominican Republic, and it's still strongly Catholic. The one thing we found is that it's Catholic in name alone. There's not a lot of practicing Catholics in the country. They still hold that, but it's not practiced. There's a lot of social separation. There is a lot of wealth and a lot of poverty. Okay? An average Dominican laborer will make $30 US a month. That's a typical wage. They live usually in group housing. Families will live, a large number of family will live in a very small space. The primary money-making means are to labor, and if not labor, to get enough money to drive a motorcycle, and those motos provide the transportation in the country. The public government doesn't support a lot of public things. Usually riots, or they call them huelgas, are needed in order to enact any kind of change for the better. Water, you can't drink the water there. Everything that we drink is purchased. Botellons are what these big jugs of water are called. The plumbing is very old in the country. You can't flush waste in the regular toilet. There are things that are more primitive, but there's also wealth there as well. So my wife and I and children, we work at a school that's called Santiago Christian School. And the motto is called Shaping the Lives of Those Who Will Shape the Nation. So this is the reason why it says that. At Santiago Christian School, it's a tuition-based Christian education. It's a United States, U.S.-based education, and it's all in English. We have 700 students in the school, and within that 700 students, about 80% are local Dominican students. The other 20% are made up of missionary children, like my children, and Korean missionary children, and a few other expatriates that are there because of business dealings. But the vast majority are local Dominicans. Because of the price of the school, those that attend our school come from extremely, extremely wealthy backgrounds. These are individuals who are raised by nannies. Labor is extremely cheap. They're raised by nannies. Parents are rarely involved. If you see them out in public, the parents will be there with other parents, but all the children are being taken care of by their nannies. They're dropped off at school by their drivers and chauffeurs. Many, because of their wealth, have armed guards that are with them and drop them off because kidnapping is a problem in the country. Because of the students' wealth and their background, these students act very, very much like the impoverished students that I've worked with in large metropolitan cities. My director of the school, he came from Philadelphia, and he always says, I worked with first world environment with third world children, and now we're working in a third world environment with first world children. And they face the same problems that all students face. They're lonely. They're lacking love. They are seeking things that they're not receiving. Their hearts are hurt and breaking because every need they have in their life is met financially. And the road to lead these individuals to Christ is extremely long and difficult. So it's a very difficult work. And the motto of the school is shaping the lives of those that will shape the nation, because money is generational and works in families. These children that we have in school will be the next leaders in the Dominican Republic. And our hope and prayer of the school is that we can change the hearts of these young people, turn them to the Lord, and when they get into roles in which they can influence the nation, they're doing it from a Christ-centered perspective. So it's an interesting environment as well in a number of ways. My wife works as the Director of Admissions and Advancement, so we partner with local schools that are impoverished as well and set up distribution and partnerships with them. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up here because I'm getting hungry. So in conclusion here, the soil in my heart and where God was going to lead us began to be worked years ago, right here in this city and right here in this church. And there was a lot of influence from family and friends that played a role in that. A lot of people asked me, especially when I first moved and was going to move, because I went from having a job to, hey, Chris, what's going on? Oh, we're moving to the Dominican Republic in a couple weeks. Common question was, why in the world are you doing that? What's the reason for that? Why did you do that? Why would you give up a title and a job? Why would you give up opportunity that can't be had in the Dominican Republic? Why would you give up a salary that would now take us 10 or 12 years to earn for what we were making in a year here in the U.S.? Well, the answer is pretty easy, and I'll read you the two verses that kind of guide us through this as well. So the answer for me in 1 John 4:18, it says, I will let my faith in God be greater than my fears. We were fearful. We had no idea what we were going into. And the second part of that is from 2 Corinthians 1:20-22. It says, for no matter how many promises God has made, they are yes in Christ. And so through him, the amen is spoken by us to the glory of God. Now it is God who makes both us and you stand firm in Christ. He anointed us. He set his seal of ownership on us and put his spirit in our hearts as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come. And it's very nice to rest in those promises. So, on behalf of my family, Jennifer, Calder, Ainsley, and Malachi, thank you for your prayers. And in that way, we truly appreciate your prayers. We appreciate your thoughts. And we are very, very grateful and humbled to be doing the Lord's work in the Dominican Republic at this time. So thank you again for having me this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Chris. I tell you, I'm sitting there reminiscing a bit because I went through a lot of what he went through with one exception. I'm a stateside. I remember when I left. I'm from Eastern North Carolina to go to college. I took my wife and her and my wife and her family and all. They couldn't understand why we would leave a home, had a good government job, everything I needed, but the most important thing, I need the Word of God to be able to share with other people. And Chris, I admire you for your courage and for what you're doing for the Lord in the Dominican Republic. And I can assure you that we'll have you on our prayer sheet, prayer list, and every way we can, we'll be a boost and a help to you. Let's be standing. If anyone here needs prayer, we don't want to dismiss without giving you an opportunity to come to the altar. If you need prayer, the altar's always open. You feel free to come. Anyone? Do remember, just before we pray, come early. You know, we always have donuts, coffee a little early. The Christmas play people will be upstairs, and I'll have everybody else downstairs like we usually do on Sunday and on Wednesday night. Brother Snooks, would you lead us in prayer?
Lord, we're grateful for this day that you give us in glory. Thank you for the Chris, the work you're doing. We pray your blessings upon him, with him and his family. Watch care over him. Be with each prayer request, Lord, has been made mention before him. Meet each need. Dismiss us in that care. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
God bless you. Have a good afternoon. Hope to see you this evening.